Wait until you hear this. Rick Harrison, the man who became famous for running the pawn shop on that big television show, is now facing something that has fans talking everywhere. This is not just another update about a television personality. What happened to him is serious. Some are shocked. Some are sad. And others are just wondering what it all means. Because once you hear the final decision about Rick, you might look at his story a whole new way. He spent years buying and selling strange things, rare items, and pieces of history. He made people laugh, taught them about old stuff, and even showed how a simple shop could turn into a huge deal. But all of that seems like a memory now. Because the verdict is in. And Rick Harrison is saying goodbye. You probably remember him from that long-running show where he, his father, and his son worked together. They would talk about what came into the store, whether it was real, how much it was worth, and if they wanted to buy it. The show became super popular. Millions of people watched. People even traveled from other places just to visit the real store. Rick became a household name. But now, something has changed. It is not about an item in the shop. It is about Rick himself. And this time, it is final. Some people started to notice something was off. Rick was not showing up as often. The episodes stopped. Then, news came out that something personal had happened in his life. And then came the biggest shock. A legal battle. One that many fans did not expect. There were problems between family members, fights over money, and questions about what really went on behind the scenes. It was not like the show. It was real life. And real life is not always pretty. As time passed, things became more serious. Lawyers got involved. There were reports and papers and stories shared. Rick stayed mostly quiet, but people close to him spoke up. There was talk about trust being broken. People argued over who owned what. Some felt hurt. Others felt betrayed. It was clear that something big was coming. And then it happened. The court gave its final word. The case was settled. And the outcome meant that Rick would be stepping away from something that had been part of his life for so many years. For fans, this felt like the end of an era. Rick had been the voice, the leader, the person people thought of when they heard the name of the pawn shop. Now, with the decision made, he is saying farewell. Not just to a show, but to a huge part of who he was on screen. It is not easy to say goodbye to something that made you famous, loved, and respected. But Rick knows that sometimes, there is no other choice. What makes this story hit harder is that it did not end with celebration. It ended with courtrooms, silence, and people wondering what went wrong. Rick Harrison once said that life in a pawn shop teaches you a lot about people. Some are honest, some are not. Some things are valuable, others just look that way. Maybe those lessons helped him get through this moment. Or maybe it just shows that even people who seem strong go through tough times. There is still love for Rick. Fans are not forgetting what he brought to television. They still remember the stories, the laughs, and the deals. Some say he made learning fun. Others say he reminded them of their own family. But now, they are watching him walk away, and it feels different. There is no handshake, no final sale. Just a quiet ending. If there is one thing to take from all this, it is that even people who seem like they have it all can lose something big. Fame does not stop problems. Money does not stop pain. And being on television does not protect you from family troubles. Rick Harrison's story shows that real life can reach anyone, no matter how known they are. And sometimes, goodbyes come when you least expect them. So, what is next for Rick? That is something only time will tell. Maybe he will stay out of the spotlight. Maybe he will come back in a new way. Right now, he is stepping away. But the lessons from his time on screen will stay with fans. He taught people to ask questions, to learn before making choices, and to stand by what they believe in. And maybe that is the biggest deal he ever made. If you have watched Rick Harrison over the years, then you know this goodbye is not just about one man. It is about the end of something bigger. The end of a show. The end of a time. And the end of a connection many people felt each time they turned on the screen. So yes, the verdict is final. Yes, Rick is saying farewell. But his story will be remembered, not just for how it ended, but for everything he gave along the way. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more stories that look beyond the screen, subscribe and stay with us. Because behind every face you know, there is a real story waiting to be told.